I moved into my dorm a few months ago, excited for college life. The building was 5 stories tall, with narrow hallways and the smell of old carpet. I thought it would be an enjoyable experience, making new friends after leaving my small hometown. I've never stopped thinking about what happened next. One night, I was studying late in my room, just me and my textbooks. Suddenly, laughter echoed down the hall. It sounded just like my own. My heart jumped. I glanced at my watch. It was past midnight. I was alone. I shrugged it off as my mind playing tricks on me. In the weeks that followed, I began to feel déjà vu every time I walked back to my room. Each time felt like I had taken the same path before. I would get to my door, and it felt like I had done this yesterday and the day before. I thought I was just tired or stressed, but the feeling wouldn't go away. It felt heavy, like a weight on my chest. Some days I would return to find my room out of order. I was certain I had organized everything just so. My notebooks were misplaced, pillows shifted, and the curtains drawn differently. I thought I was just in a haze from studying, but I didn't forget simple tasks like that. It was unsettling, like someone was messing with my head. Then came the shadows. I started seeing them in the corners of my vision. They darted away whenever I turned to look. My breath hitched, and a chill flowed through me. I thought maybe it was all the coffee, or that I needed more sleep, but a voice in my head whispered that it was something more. Each night, I told myself these experiences were part of college life. Stress, lack of sleep. But deep down, I sensed something else. It felt wrong. Something was lurking in those walls. I was beginning to believe it had something to do with me. Then one evening as I walked to my room, I froze. I heard my laughter again, echoing from the end of the hall, louder this time. I turned slowly, and my hair stood on end. No one was there. My heart raced. I backed away, feeling watched. Then a whisper reached my ears. "You shouldn't have come here." A chill ran down my spine. I wanted to leave, but the hallway felt longer than I remembered. Maybe I was losing my mind, or something was holding me there. I walked faster, trying to shake off the dread. I made it to my door and fished for my keys. My hands felt cold, shaking slightly. I opened the door and hurried inside, locking it behind me. I leaned against the door, trying to catch my breath. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. The shadows seemed to gather outside my door. I felt their presence like a weight pressing on me. I needed to sleep, but I was scared to close my eyes. So I sat up in bed, listening. The laughter echoed again, but it was closer now. "Jamie," it called. It sounded like me, but twisted. I hugged my knees to my chest and felt tears in my eyes. What had I done? I was trapped, and I was terrified. I sat there in the dark, my heart thudding against my chest. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The voice called my name again, soft and mocking. "Jamie." I pressed my hands over my ears and tried to focus on my breathing. I needed to think. The shadows outside my door loomed larger, pulsating like a heartbeat. They felt as if they were inching closer, ready to seep into my room. My mind raced as I recalled the stories I heard during orientation week. Ghosts, hauntings. My dorm had its share of legends. I shook my head. This was just stress, I told myself. Just me being paranoid. But the laughter returned, echoing and twisting, fragmented pieces of what I used to be. The laughter morphed into whispers. "Join us. Be one of us." It sent a shiver down my spine. I couldn't stay here. I grabbed my phone, but the screen flickered, casting eerie shadows across my room. My texts to friends were either undelivered or responded to with confusion. They had no idea what I was going through. Then, I heard something heavy shift outside my door. My pulse quickened, and I grabbed a pillow, ready to use it as a shield. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was just the building settling or footsteps from someone else on the hallway. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. I felt the cold fingers of dread wrap around my throat. With shaky hands, I opened the door a crack, peering into the darkness. The hall was empty, but I noticed a sliver of light at the far end. I couldn't remember that light ever being there before. It pulsed gently, like a beacon. Something compelled me to step outside. Curiosity, or maybe desperation. I didn't want to be alone anymore. I inched forward, my heart racing with each step. The laughter faded, replaced by a low hum that vibrated through the air. I felt drawn to the light, my feet moving almost of their own accord. As I drew closer, I could see shadows flitting around the corners, darting just beyond my line of sight. Whoever, whatever, was out here didn't want me to get to that light. Just as I reached the source, everything went dark. The hallway and the light vanished,
leaving me in a suffocating black. Panic set in. I realized I wasn't alone. I could feel the heat of someone beside me. I turned, but nothing was there. Or was it? Then, a whisper floated through the air, chilling me to the bone. "You chose to stay." My heart raced. I stumbled backward, desperation flooding my senses. I needed to find a way out, but I felt as if the walls were closing in around me. I was trapped. If I wanted to escape this horror, I needed to face it head on. But how could I face the unknown? Just then, the darkness fractured, and a figure emerged, a blurry silhouette, whispering my name like a siren. Jamie. As it advanced, I knew I had to make a choice. I could confront whatever this was, or run back to my room, hiding from the growing storm. But deep down, an undeniable urge to understand what I had stumbled into overwhelmed me.
Then everything went silent, leaving only the echo of my own heartbeat in my ears. I blinked as the figure took shape. A girl, maybe my age. Her features were indistinct, as if wrapped in fog, but I could sense the sadness radiating from her. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice a chilling whisper. I froze, weighing my options. I could run, dart back to the safety of my room, but that would mean hiding from whatever truth awaited me. The girl took a step forward, her form flickering like a candle in the wind. It reminded me of stories I heard about spirits trapped between worlds. I don't know, I finally stammered, the air thick with unease. The shadows coiled closer, and I felt their pull, their desperation. Are you trapped?" Her eyes, if they could be called that, bore into mine, and for a moment I saw something bright, something human behind the darkness. "You have to help us," she pleaded. "We can't leave until—" The words hung in the air, suffocating me. My instincts screamed for me to retreat. Rising panic made my throat tighten, and I took a small step back. Then the darkness surged, pushing against me like a wave, binding me in place. I fought against it, struggling to breathe, as if the shadows themselves sought to drag me down into whatever pit they emerged from. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from one of the rooms on my floor, breaking the spell for a second. The girl's image faltered, and I felt an urge to escape, to see what was real. I glanced down the hallway, my heart pounding against my ribs. "Please," she hissed, "you have to make a choice." I turned my gaze back to her, just in time to see a flash of something. An image? A memory? A scene from my past flickered in my mind. Friends laughing, lights dancing, promises of safety shared among us. Then it was gone, swallowed by the darkness. My resolve trembled. Could I really help her? A part of me wanted to stay, to listen, but the other part of me was screaming to bolt, to escape this surreal nightmare. As I hesitated, the shadows lurked hungrily, and I felt the room close in. I clenched my fists, adrenaline coursing through me. "What do I need to do?" I shouted, my voice piercing the suffocating silence. "Find the key," she breathed, her eyes widening. "You have to find the key to set us free." Before I could respond, the figure dissolved into mist, leaving me alone once again with the ominous whispers that filled the void. In that moment, I realized something. This was more than just a haunting. Someone wanted something from me, and I couldn't ignore it. I knew I had to search for that key, no matter the cost. I turned and fled down the hallway, driven by an urgency I couldn't quite understand. My heart raced as I made my way to the common area, where I hoped to find something, anything that could help me make sense of this madness. But as I approached the door, I felt that dreadful shiver return. Someone or something was waiting for me on the other side. I hesitated, breathless, and suddenly the whispers rose again, echoing through the tension in the air. "Join us. Be one of us." I pushed the door open, ready to confront whatever lay ahead, hoping it wasn't too late. The common area was dimly lit, shadows creeping along the walls as if they were alive. My breathing felt shallow. I stepped inside, half expecting to see someone waiting for me, but the space was empty, eerily still. The faint sounds of the old building creaked around me, and for a moment I felt a bead of sweat trickle down my back. "Find the key," her whisper echoed in my mind.
I scanned the room, desperate for anything that made sense. A worn couch sat against one wall, its fabric frayed and faded. A few chairs were scattered around a coffee table, cluttered with remnants of abandoned snacks and old magazines. I walked over, my fingers brushing against the paper, feeling the weight of neglect settle around me. Then I spotted something glinting underneath the couch. Kneeling down, I reached for it. When my fingers wrapped around the cool metal, my heart jumped. It was an old key, its design intricate yet covered in dust. I held it up, squinting at it in the flickering light. It felt deceptively ordinary, but something about it gave me hope. "What do you unlock?" I whispered to myself, trying to shake off the intense feeling that I was being watched. Just then, the temperature dropped sharply, sending a chill racing through my veins. I stood up quickly, key still in hand, and turned to the door I had just come through. That's when I saw it, a figure looming at the entrance, its features obscured by shadows. My heart thudded in my chest. "Help us," the figure rasped, its voice a haunting echo of the girl's. The air thickened, and I could taste the fear coating my tongue. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. The figure stepped closer, and I felt every urge to bolt surge within me. "You have to unlock the truth," it replied, its breath a cold mist. I could barely make out its face. All I could see were sunken eyes and a mouth that moved as if it had something urgent to say. "What truth?" I demanded, my grip tightening on the key. Without answering, the figure pointed to the far wall, where the old pinboard hung, cluttered with flyers and photos. There was something unusual about it. The shadows danced upon it, and I felt pulled toward it. With each step I took, the whispers grew louder, intertwining with the shadows. "Find the truth, find the truth." I reached the pinboard and examined the mess of paper pinned to it. Suddenly, a photo caught my eye. My breath hitched as I recognized myself, smiling alongside the girl from before, captured at one of our college events. But behind us, faint and distorted in the background, a dark figure loomed, almost blending into the shadows. "Why are you there?"
I murmured, my heart racing at the realization. I could hear the voice of the ghostly girl in my mind again, urging me forward. "You have to make the connection." I glanced back at the dark figure, who seemed agitated, shifting from foot to foot. My gut twisted with a new awareness. It all connected somehow. I needed to find the key to whatever darkness haunted this place, and I sensed time was running out. "Wait," I called to the figure, my voice steadying. "Show me." It recoiled slightly, then nodded, its shadowy form melting into the wall. The temperature dropped again, and I felt the weight of something ancient settling into the air. I knew something significant was about to happen, and my heart raced in anticipation of the unearthing truths waiting to rip to the surface. I barely had time to register the figure's departure before the room filled with an unsettling stillness. My pulse quickened. The pinboard seemed to pulse with energy, and I felt my breath catch as I leaned closer, losing myself in the chaotic mosaic of paper. Something drew my attention to a corner of the board where a flyer was pinned, its edges curled in pink from fading. It read, "Annual Hallows Eve Celebration. Remember the past." My mind raced. Halloween had always been a big deal at our school, yet something about the flyer sent a shiver down my spine. A date caught my eye, October 31st, 2 years ago. That was the night before I had met the girl in the photo. My memories flashed vividly, a party filled with laughter, but now that memory felt tainted. Then I noticed a name written on the flyer in shaky handwriting. Sarah, the same name that resonated in my earlier encounters with the figure and the girl's voice. I felt the chill return, creeping up from my spine to wrap around my throat. I turned back to the figure, searching for answers. "Sarah, is that you?" I called out, but only silence answered. The penboard behind me seemed to shimmer, the papers fluttering without a breeze. I felt the urge to rip it all down, to uncover some truth hidden beneath. Then everything went dark. The lights flickered violently before dying completely, plunging me into a suffocating abyss. My heart raced, every instinct screaming for me to flee. I fumbled in my pockets for my phone, desperate for the comforting glow of the screen. "Stay," a soft, whispering voice echoed through the dark. It was unmistakably the girl. I looked in every direction, but all I could see was blackness. "You need to know." In the suffocating darkness, I gripped the key tightly. Despite the fear coursing through me, I couldn't shake the sense that I was close to something important. My feet moved almost on their own, guided by a force I could hardly comprehend. I backed into the cold wall, feeling the rough texture under my palms. "Show me the truth," I shouted, my voice barely cutting through the silence.
A sudden rush of wind swept through the common area.
Papers flew off the pinboard and scattered around me like frantic birds. Underneath, another photo emerged, partially hidden. I leaned down to examine it. My breath caught in my throat when I recognized the scene. The very same party Sarah and I had attended. But in that snapshot, she looked terrified, a shadow looming ominously behind her. My body tensed as I felt the same cold chill from earlier, the atmosphere thickening with foreboding. That shadow in the photo, a realization pierced my mind. Wait, that's not just a figure. It's the same one I saw. My heart sank. Each connection deepened the knot of fear in my gut. The darkness surrounding me felt alive, and I could almost hear it breathing. Then, I heard the shuffle again, the figure returning, its presence both comforting and terrifying. "Unlock it," it urged, nodding toward the key in my palm. Before I could respond, the darkness pulsed again, and I knew my time was running out. I had to uncover more. What could the key unlock? What had happened at that party? And who exactly had I been tangled with ever since? The darkness pressed against me, heavy and cloying. I could sense the figure drawing nearer, but my eyes strained to see in the shadows. The whisper of its voice filled the silence again, just as faint, yet more urgent. "Unlock it," it repeated, gesturing toward the key I was still clutching. My hand trembled as I raised the key to high level. I could barely make out its intricate design. What could it possibly open? Before I could ponder further, a flash of light pierced the darkness. A single bulb flickered on, illuminating the pinboard once more. The once familiar faces from the party stared back at me, their smiles tainted by the ominous shadow I just discovered. Suddenly, I felt a wave of nausea, like my stomach dropped at the realization. "Sarah," I muttered, a name barely capable of holding my anguish. If this was all connected, if Sarah had been involved, I needed to know where she was. "Look behind you," the figure urged, its voice resonating with urgency. I turned slowly, dread crawling along my skin. The once empty wall now displayed a door I hadn't noticed before, ancient and formidable. Its surface was covered in dust, like it had been forgotten, or perhaps kept hidden for too long. I hesitated. What's behind that door? Is it safe? The figure moved closer, its features still indistinct. "Answers," it hissed, the breath of its voice curling around my ears. I took a deep breath and stepped closer to the door. The key felt heavier in my palm, my pulse hammering in my ears. What if I found Sarah? What if I found more? With trembling fingers, I approached the door's lock and inserted the key. The moment I turned it, a loud click echoed through the air, and the door swung open on rusted hinges. A bitter chill wafted from the darkened space beyond. I squinted, trying to see what lay ahead, but whatever awaited me remained cloaked in shadow.
"Go," the figure urged again. "You must confront it." Taking another deep breath, I stepped over the threshold, crossing into a room that seemed suspended in time. A flickering candle illuminated scattered furniture, old and worn. On a small table, I spotted a stack of letters held together by a frayed ribbon. They looked ancient, but my heart raced as I was drawn to them. I reached for the top letter, the moment feeling electric. I could sense the looming figure behind me, its presence driving me onward. As I unwrapped the ribbon, my fingers brushed against the first letter, and an icy wind billowed through the room, extinguishing the candle. "Sarah," I yelled, panic swelling within me. "Are you here?" Silence swallowed my words, and suddenly I felt an overwhelming sense of dread. I turned to face the figure, but emptiness greeted me instead. That fear I'd tried to dismiss was back, clawing deeper. Then, from the stillness, I heard a faint sob. My heart pounded as I realized someone, or something, was waiting just beyond my vision. I had stepped into something far beyond my understanding. Whatever connection there was to Sarah, it twisted like a thorn. I had to push ahead. But just as I stepped further into the room, I found myself backing against the door. I was not alone anymore. Then I heard her name again, spoken softly,
but it felt like an accusation. "Sarah." I felt the temperature drop. The air thickened around me, suffocating. I took a step back, instinctively pressing against the door. My pulse raced. The sobbing continued, echoing in the hollow room, crowing closer. I had to see what lay in the darkness. "Sarah," I ventured again, my voice trembling. The sobbing paused, replaced by an unsettling silence that stretched on. Each breath felt like I was inhaling ice. I glanced at the stack of letters, then back towards the suffocating shadows. The figures seemed to dance at the edges of my vision, twisting and writhing. I couldn't shake the feeling that they were alive. Anxiety gripped my chest tighter, and I forced myself to peel my gaze away from the darkness, challenging myself to focus on the letters instead. With a shaking hand, I reached for the first letter, lifting it cautiously from the others. As I unfolded it, the faint scent of musty paper enveloped me. I squinted at the words in the dim light that flickered from nowhere. The writing was hurried, frantic. It read, "If you're reading this, you found the truth. The key unlocks not only doors, but memories very deep. Sarah knew, and now it's your time to understand." I froze, my heart racing. Memories. What truth? I could barely comprehend it when a cold breath brushed against the back of my neck. "Don't look behind you," a soft voice warned. It was the figure, back again, almost floating in the gloom. "You must finish." I swallowed hard, my fingers shaking as I gripped the edge of the letter. "Finish what?" It urged, desperation lacing its whisper.
Against every instinct, I read further, the words unraveling a story laced with dread. Each line drew me deeper. Names that were familiar but forgotten danced through my mind. Friends from the party, glances exchanged, secrets hinted at behind closed doors. Sarah and we were connected, I muttered, the realization settling like a weighty stone. The more I read, the more memories resurfaced, distorted and jagged, a reliving of moments that felt all too real, yet so far away. But then I felt it, a shift in the air. The sobbing resumed, now accompanied by a soft humming, a melody hauntingly familiar. It wrapped around me, pulsing with an energy that tugged at something deep inside. Suddenly, the room warped, the surroundings twisted, flickering like an old movie reel. I clutched the letter tighter, fighting against the pull. "No," I shouted, but my voice drowned in the vexing song. Then everything went dark. My heart raced. I could feel the shadows close in around me, drowning out the light. In that suffocating silence, a single thought crystallized in my mind. I had to fight to uncover what lay behind this web of memories. As the darkness swept over me completely, all I could think was a desperate plea. "Sarah, where are you?" I don't know how long I was lost in the dark. Time felt like a thick fog, stretching and distorting without mercy. Then, a light flickered, breaking through the suffocating blackness. I blinked, heart pounding in my chest. It felt familiar, yet so strange. I was back in my college dorm, but everything was different. The walls were peeling, and the sense of musty books mixed with something more bitter, like decay. I stepped cautiously into the room. The air was dense, like something was pressing against my skin. My gaze drifted toward the corner, where shadows lingered, creeping along the walls. I could hear the sobbing again, but it was muffled, as if coming from behind a barrier. "Sarah?" I called out, my voice echoing in the unsettling silence. No response came, just the soft, persistent weeping, drawing me in. With each step, I felt a growing sense of dread, like I was being watched. As I approached the corner, something caught my eye. A shiny object peeking from beneath a tangle of frayed cables on the floor. I knelt down, my stomach churning. It was a key, old and rusted, but strangely warm to the touch. A cold shiver ran down my spine. Was this the key from the letter? Before I had time to contemplate its significance, the sobbing intensified, mingling with the haunting melody I had just escaped.
Panic clawed at me. Turning back toward the door, I froze. It was gone. Just an empty wall where it had once stood. "Please, you must find her." The voice whispered again, urgent and frightened. I looked around, eyes darting. Find who? With the key. Unlock the door. I felt a pull in my gut. My mind raced back to the letter's words. Unlock memories buried deep.
I glanced back at the key and looked for any sign of a door in the room. My heart raced as I noticed a faint outline shimmering on the wall, something I hadn't seen before. It pulsed like it was alive, just waiting for me. I stumbled toward it, the key clutched tightly in my fist. Suddenly, the sobbing morphed into something more desperate, echoing off the walls. It felt like a warning. "No!" I shouted instinctively, bracing myself, but I was already moving closer, compelled by a force I couldn't resist. I reached the shimmering outline, feeling the energy hum against my skin. "Unlock the door," the voice urged again, more frantic now. I knew it was my chance, my only chance, but the fear gripped my chest with icy fingers. What lay beyond the door? With shaking hands, I inserted the key, heart pounding. As it turned, the room around me shifted again. I gasped as a blinding light enveloped me, and I felt myself being pulled into the unknown. Then, everything stopped. In the sudden silence, I opened my eyes. I was no longer in the dorm room. I was somewhere else, somewhere dark and deep. And then I heard it again, the sobbing. This time it wasn't coming from a distance. It was right next to me. "Help me." A chill ran through me. I wasn't alone anymore. What had I unleashed? I turned slowly, dread coiling in my stomach. The darkness around me thickened, swallowing the faint glow that had once illuminated my path. The sobbing grew louder, more heart-wrenching. I strained my eyes, searching for the source, but nothing was visible except shadows. "Who's there?" I whispered, gripping the key tightly. The air felt alive, as if it were watching me. That desperate voice from earlier echoed in my mind. "Find her." But how? I felt utterly lost. Then, out of the shadows, a figure emerged. It was a girl, her face obscured by tangled, matted hair. Tears streamed down her cheeks, glistening like streams of silver in the darkness. She reached out a trembling hand. "Please, you have to help me." I hesitated, my pulse racing. "What do you mean? Who are you?" "Sarah," she gasped, her breath hitching. "You must remember. You have to unlock it." "Unlock what?" Panic bubbled inside me. I felt the key's weight in my palm. This can't be real. Her eyes met mine, pooling with sorrow. "The door, the truth. You need to find out what happened to me." I took a step back, fear flooding my veins. "What happened to you, Sarah? Why are you here?" "Time is lost in this place," she sobbed. "I can't escape. Neither can you." Her words sliced through me. "Neither can you." Anxiety swirled in my chest. I needed to leave, to wake up from this nightmare, but the weight of her gaze anchored me in place. "I don't know what to do," I admitted, desperation creeping into my voice. "Use the key," she cried out, panic lacing her tone. "It's the only way to reveal the truth. The door you opened can take you further." I blinked, thoughts racing.
The key was still warm against my skin, pulsing with untapped energy. Was it really my only choice? But before I could respond, the shadows around us shifted. Dark tendrils curled closer, threatening and alive. I could feel their icy reach tugging at me, drawing me into the depths of this place. The sobbing morphed into screams, piercing my ears with chaos. I felt my heart pounding, too fast, too intense. "Hold on, Sarah," I shouted, fighting against the shadows. "I'll help you." But as I turned to grasp her hand, she disappeared with a wisp of mist, leaving me in the darkness. The screams faded into a chilling silence. Alone again. I felt lost, but the key was still in my grasp. I had to make a decision. What if I unlocked something I wasn't ready for?
The shadows loomed larger, pressing against me. I could hear faint whispers mingling with the wind. Find her. Find the truth. Then everything went dark. Heart racing, breathing shallow. I had to act. I needed to find out what lay ahead. I lifted the key, ready to turn it again. I had a feeling that whatever happened next would change everything. But I was in too deep now. I couldn't back down. The moment I turned the key, the world around me fragmented like glass. Light swirled around me, and I couldn't tell if I was floating or plummeting. A rush of memories washed over me. Laughter, camaraderie, and a distinct pressing weight of loss. I gasped, feeling all at once connected and disjointed. As the whirlwind subsided, I found myself standing in an expansive, dimly lit room. It felt familiar but unsettling, coated in an ethereal glow that cast long, stretching shadows across the walls. In the center of the room stood an ancient door, ornate and heavy, resembling the one I had unlocked. Jamie. The name floated through the air like a whisper on the wind, echoing off unseen walls. A sense of dread pulsed through me. I spun around, searching for the source. "Sarah," I called out, my voice feeling small in the unsettling silence. The atmosphere thickened, pressing against me. It was as if the very air was alive with anticipation. I stepped closer to the door, the key still warm in my palm. "What do I need to remember? What happened?" "The door holds what you seek. The truth," Sarah's voice persisted. "You must confront it to free us both." With a shuddering breath, I inserted the key into the lock. A soft click resonated in the stillness, and the door creaked open, revealing a room cloaked in shadow. The air stank of mildew and something more sinister. As I stepped inside, screams erupted from the depths of my mind, memories surfacing, weaving through me like a dark tapestry. Faces flashed before my eyes, friends, smiles twisted by confusion and fear.
The party, the night that had twisted everything, forever altering my reality. The shadows stirred around me, beckoning, whispering, "Remember, remember." It was the truth that bound me here, but each piece of memory pulled me deeper, revealing glimmers of laughter, replaced by panic. "Where are you, Sarah?" I shouted into the void, my heart pounding. Swirling mist began to converge, forming shapes, figures of people I recognized, but their features were marred by anguish. They stood just beyond the reach of the dim light, trapped in their own shadows. "Help us, you have to understand," they implored, voices overlapping in a haunting chorus. Among the faces, I saw a flash of Sarah. Her eyes glistened with a desperation that struck my heart. "You have to remember our promise." "What promise?" I cried, fighting the terror that gripped me. "I don't understand." "The door holds the key to the past. You must break the cycle." Before I could comprehend, the figures surged toward me, merging together, their whispers intertwining, each word an echo of the night of the party. A confrontation I had never expected began to unfold in my mind, the truth of that night, long buried in my unconscious. Suddenly, the ground beneath my feet shook, and the air thickened as if responding to the memories. Images became vivid. The moment I realized Sarah was in trouble, the urgency of dragging her out of the party, but the darkness that had seeped in, it had been everywhere, wrapping around us like a suffocating shroud. "You were drawn to the shadows, Jamie," Sarah's voice rang clear. "You cannot escape what you ran from." "I didn't know," I shouted, emotions welling up inside me like a tidal wave. "I wanted to protect you." "Then face it," she urged, the shadows around us swirling like a whirlwind. "Only then can we be free." I felt the cold grip of fear tighten around my throat. For everything I had feared, every creeping shadow that had haunted me, I needed to stand firm against it. Summoning a resolve I hardly believed existed, I pushed through the memories, demanding clarity. With one strong breath, I cried out, "What do you want from me?" The shadows fell silent, the room eerily quiet. Time hung in the balance, waiting for my choice. "You chose to run, to forget, but you have to confront what binds us."
I stepped deeper into the room, determined to uncover the truth. The key glowed bright in my hand, illuminating the corners of the darkness. I'm here. I won't let you take her away. The room shuddered, the walls pulsing around me, and I was suddenly engulfed in memories. Memories of the darkness that had taken hold of that night. Heartbreak and betrayal rushed in, memories of laughter extinguished by the realization that something sinister had joined our celebration. Suddenly the visions froze to reveal Sarah's terrified face, lost in the shadows. You have to break the cycle, she urged. Face the darkness together.
All right, I whispered, coaxing strength into my voice. I will. As if responding, the shadows screeched, swirling around me, trying to pull me in again. But this time I was ready. This time I pressed forward into the heart of the darkness, clutching the key tightly. As the shadows screamed in protest, I pushed through to the truth, battling against their weight, forcing them back. Stay with me, Sarah. We're almost there. With every ounce of strength, I shouted into the void, feeling the barrier between fear and courage begin to crack. The doorway slammed shut behind us, and though darkness loomed large on the edges of my vision, I felt warmth press against my skin, a safety, a glimmer of light. I turned, hoping to find her. Together, Jamie, Sarah urged, suddenly by my side, emerging from the shadows. And then, as if the air breathed anew, I felt a surge of energy wash over me. The shadows recoiled. Hand in hand with Sarah, I pushed through the darkness toward the light, feeling the warmth grow sharper around us. As we reached the threshold, the shadows screamed one last time, the darkness unraveling in an explosion of sensations, memories rushing in. Beneath their howl, I felt the truth resonate. Heartbeats in the dark had finally found their release. I blinked, the chaotic swirl settling as I opened my eyes. We were back in the common room, the air vibrant and alive with hope. The darkness had fleeted, leaving only memories behind. Though questions lingered in my heart, I felt lighter. I turned back toward Sarah's shimmering form, and as I opened my mouth to speak, she whispered with a hint of a smile, "You did it." An ethereal glow enveloped her, and I knew her truth had finally found peace. But I still didn't know exactly how the past had twisted into such nightmare. The shadows might always linger in the periphery of my memory, the unknown still gnawing at me, but I would carry this strength forward. I had faced the darkness and prevailed, and now it was time to step into the light, forever changed. And though I had released Sarah, and I could sense that my journey was far from over, I still sometimes wonder about the others, the ones still caught in the silence, their whispers echoing in the forgotten corners of my mind.